Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel and welcome to the end of 2020. We made it. So, for this end of year video, I'm going to be listing the top 5 new television shows, movies, and books that I watched or read this year. But before we get to that, I just wanted to thank everyone who has subscribed to my channel, who has watched any videos on my channel. I've been meaning to start a channel for a while, and this year I finally went ahead and did it, so I just want to thank everyone who helped me make this possible by watching these videos or engaging with them. So thank you a lot for that. And now, to wrap up the year, going to be listing those top 5s. So, top 5 television shows that I watched this year. And to be clear, these aren't new things that came out in 2020. These are things that might have come out a while back that I first consumed in 2020, because there really wasn't that much new stuff coming out this year. Okay, sorry. Now that we've clarified that. Top 5 television shows that I watched for the first time in 2020. Number 5 is The Umbrella Academy, which I'd been meaning to check out for a while and finally did, and obviously season 2 also did come out this year. So yeah, I like season 1. I like season 2 better. And yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a superhero show about a bunch of adopted siblings who have to save the world, but maybe aren't the best at it. Yeah. And I thought it was really good stuff. Fun times to watch. I like sibling relationships a lot, so that works for me. Number 4 is Game of Thrones. Now, I don't really need to say what Game of Thrones is. You all know what Game of Thrones is. I hadn't watched any of it. I had never been, involved in any way with the show. I knew basically nothing except that Sean Bean died in the first season. But I decided to watch it in March. I finished it in April. And at some point, I think I mentioned I took notes while I was watching, so even though I don't have a reaction to it, I might make a video of just my first time thoughts based on the notes that I wrote while I was watching. But yeah, I actually liked it enough that I started reading the first book. I started in April, but I read slowly, so still reading it now. But yeah, even though obviously the ending had its issues, I still liked it enough for it to make my top 5. Number 3 is The Good Place, which I first watched this year and then had to wait quite a while for season 4 because when I watched the first 3, season 4 hadn't been released on Netflix yet. But yeah, I don't generally watch sitcoms, but this one was really good. I actually also watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine for the first time this year, and that was also really good. I didn't put it on the top 5, but I guess they can kind of both share this spot. Both sitcoms that I personally ended up quite liking, especially given that the other show, that creator was also in The Office, and I'm not really an Office fan, but I really liked both Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Good Place, which I watched for the first time this year, so yeah. Number 2 is The Queen's Gambit, which obviously was pretty recently a very big hit. As someone who plays chess only for fun and never in a tournament, but as someone who plays and enjoys it, I really enjoyed the television show. It was also just a really good character piece, and I definitely recommend it for anyone who needs something to watch. And number 1 is Anne with an E, which is another show that I've been meaning to watch for a while, and finally got around to. It's obviously based on the Anne of Green Gables books, and I love this show. It's really great. I hope that the campaigns for a 4th season and/or movie are heard, because I really enjoyed that story a lot. So yeah, those were my top 5 television shows that I watched for the first time this year. Now, for my top 5 movies, I didn't watch a lot of movies this year, so, yeah, there's just that. Obviously, there were a few new ones that came out this year, but generally, not a lot came out this year, and when I'm watching, old things, I usually will go for a TV show over a movie. But I watched some. So for number 5, I'm going with Onward, which is the Pixar film that came out earlier this year. I enjoyed it. It was a nice story about the 2 brothers. Anything that Tom Holland is in is a plus for me, because I think he's a great actor. And yeah, so that was just a really fun, nice, sweet movie. For 4 through 2, it's just going to be the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's kind of cheating. I was going to just put them all as 1, but I couldn't think of enough movies to fill the other spots. So I don't know if I necessarily like them better than Onward, or at least not all of them, but obviously I react to them for this channel. That was some of the first videos I made, and I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, to be honest. I was kind of afraid I was going to hate them, and then I didn't, so that sort of elevates them for me. So, yeah, it'll be number 4 is Fellowship, number 3, Return of the King, and number to The Two Towers, because that's my ranking for them. And yeah, I'm going to read the book at some point, but like I said, I'm currently reading the Game of Thrones series, and that's going to take me a while. And number 1 on my new movies that I watched this year is one that came out last year, and it is Little Women. I really liked the acting and the way they did the movie. Obviously, I generally knew the plot because I've seen other adaptations of Little Women and may or may not have read the book. I can't remember. But yeah, I really enjoyed this version of it. So yeah, that's my number 1 movie that I watched this year. And now for my top 5 books. Now, this one's an exciting year for me because I actually read 5 books. This might sound weird because I talk about how I love reading a lot, but I read very slowly, as I mentioned before. So the fact that I actually got to read 5 books, even though not all of the ones I list will be ones I have finished, was just really exciting for me. So yeah, number 5 is the one unfinished one, and it is A Game of Thrones. I wasn't sure if I was going to include this or not, because, I mean, I have certain issues with it, but I am enjoying it, and I think that I'm mentioning it especially because people who may have seen the show and be thinking about reading the books, I think it's a good idea, perhaps. I think having seen the show makes reading the book a lot easier. So yeah, that's that. That's by George R. R. Martin. I'll know that. And now these other 4 books are all going to be ones that I read for my Literature for Younger Readers class in my school. So they are all aimed at children or teenagers. But, you know, that doesn't make them bad books. In fact, I think they're quite good. So number 4 is Adam Gidwich's A Tale Dark and Grim, which is a fairy tale story. I really like fairy tale stories. This one is a bit darker and more gory than what I typically read, but I still think it was well done. It intertwines a lot of the fairy tales together, and I just think it's a good way of doing it. Number 3 on my list is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which is about a black girl named Star who goes to a predominantly white school, and then one of her friends gets killed by a police officer. Obviously, it's socially relevant. I also just really thought it was a well-written and enjoyable book, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Number 2 is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is a verse novel, meaning it's written in like a series of poems, and I expected to not like it because I don't really do poetry. It's like not a thing I do, but I quite enjoyed the book. It's about a girl who is struggling with like her family and her religion, and she finds poetry, and yeah, it's a really good book, and I recommend checking it out. And number 1 on my list is Fresh Ink, which is a short story collection written by a bunch of people, but it's edited by Lamar Giles. It is a project of We Need Diverse Books, so it has a lot of different stories about diverse people in different settings. My personal favorite short story in there involves 2 girls who meet at a science fiction and fantasy convention, and yeah, that was my favorite book that I read this year. So I definitely recommend all of those books, movies, TV shows for anyone who is interested. And again, I just wanted to thank everyone who has been involved in any way with my channel this year. So thank you all, and I will see you next year. Bye!